Have you ever noticed how easy it is to spend money now, yet how heavy the consequences feel later? Today, money no more longer leaves our hands. It disappears with a tap, a swipe, a glance at a screen. And because it no more longer feels real, we stop treating it like something real. We don't pause, we don't hesitate, we don't feel the loss until it shows up as stress, debt, or regret. This video isn't about blaming technology. It's about understanding what invisible money is quietly doing to your brain, your habits, and your sense of control. If you've ever wondered why spending feels effortless but saving feels exhausting, stay with me because the answer isn't financial, it's psychological. Opening, when money stops feeling real. We live in a time when money has almost completely vanished from our hands. It no longer rustles in our wallets, weighs down our pockets, or forces us to pause while counting bills one by one. Instead, money now appears as glowing numbers on a screen, silent confirmations, short vibrations, and fleeting notifications. A tap, a swipe, a face scan, and it is gone. Or at least it feels like it is gone. Yet nothing truly disappears. Rent is still due, debt still accumulates, savings still rise or collapse, consequences still arrive, often quietly, often delayed, but always real. This creates a strange contradiction at the heart of modern life. We have never had so much financial convenience, and yet we have never been so disconnected from the experience of spending. Money has become invisible, and with that invisibility comes a slow erosion of awareness. The question is not whether digital money works. Clearly it does. The question is what happens to human behavior when the most powerful force shaping daily decisions becomes something we barely feel. What happens when spending stops feeling like losing something? What happens when money becomes abstract? This is not a story about technology being evil. It is a story about psychology lagging behind innovation. Our brains evolved in a world where resources were tangible, limited, and painful to give up. Digital money removes that pain, that friction, that moment of hesitation. And when pain disappears, behavior changes. Invisible money may feel lighter, cleaner, and more efficient, but its consequences are heavy, complex, and deeply human. The brain's relationship with physical money. To understand why digital money feels different, we must begin with how the human brain responds to physical cash. When we pay with cash, the experience is multisensory. We see the bills leave our hands, we feel the texture of paper, we hear the sound of money being counted. There is a brief pause during the exchange, a moment where our brain registers loss. This moment is not accidental, it is crucial. Neuroscience research has shown that spending physical money activates areas of the brain associated with pain, loss, and self-control. This phenomenon is often referred to as the pain of pain. The insula, a region involved in emotional awareness and discomfort, becomes active when people part with tangible money. This pain serves an evolutionary purpose. It slows us down, it forces us to evaluate whether the exchange is worth it, it creates resistance. In simple terms, cash makes spending feel real. That feeling of loss is not a flaw in human psychology. It is a protective mechanism. It helps regulate impulses, encourages prioritization, and reinforces the reality that money is finite. When people pay with cash, they tend to spend less. They remember transactions more clearly. They feel the cost of their choices more deeply. This is not because cash users are morally superior or more disciplined. It is because their brains are receiving stronger feedback signals. Physical money creates emotional friction. Digital payments and the muted brain response. Digital payments change this equation entirely. When we tap a phone or click a button, the transaction becomes abstract. There is no physical transfer, no visible depletion, no tactile signal that something valuable has left us. The brain receives the information, but the emotional response is significantly weaker. Studies in behavioral economics consistently show that people spend more when using digital payment methods compared to cash. Credit cards, mobile wallets, and contactless payments all reduce the psychological cost of spending. This happens because digital payments separate the act of buying from the sensation of paying. The reward, receiving a product or service, is immediate. The cost feels delayed, distant, or even unreal. In digital transactions, the brain focuses on acquisition, not loss. The insula reacts less. The pain signal is muted. Self-control mechanisms are less engaged. The transaction feels smoother, lighter, almost consequence-free. This does not mean people are unaware they are spending money. It means the emotional weight of spending has been reduced, and when emotional weight disappears, spending accelerates. Friction as a forgotten guardian. In the past, friction was built into financial behavior by default. Counting money took time. Writing checks required intention. Even withdrawing cash demanded effort. These small inconveniences acted as checkpoints, moments where the brain could intervene and ask, do I really need this? Modern financial systems are designed to eliminate friction entirely. Convenience is the goal. Speed is the metric of success. From a technological perspective, this is progress. From a psychological perspective, it removes an essential safeguard. Friction is not merely an inconvenience, it is cognitive space. It is time for reflection. It is the pause that allows rational thought to catch up with desire. When friction disappears, decisions become automatic. Spending shifts from a conscious act to a habitual response. This is why digital spending often feels effortless in the moment, but heavy in hindsight. The system works exactly as designed. The problem is that the human mind was not designed for such seamless loss. Why a click feels weightless. A single click carries no emotional gravity. There is no buildup, no anticipation, no ritual. The action is instantaneous and reversible in feeling, even if it is irreversible in reality. Psychologically, the brain processes clicks as low-effort actions. They resemble gestures more than decisions. The smaller the physical effort required, the smaller the perceived consequence. This phenomenon is closely tied to what psychologists call action abstraction. When an action is removed from its tangible outcome, the brain struggles to assign appropriate significance to it. Paying with cash feels like giving something up. Clicking Pay Now feels like completing a task. The interface reinforces this perception. Clean design, friendly animations, and confirmation sounds all frame spending as a successful interaction rather than a sacrifice. Over time, the brain learns that clicking does not hurt, and when something does not hurt, it stops demanding attention. Decoupling, when payment and loss drift apart. One of the most important concepts in understanding digital spending behavior is decoupling. Decoupling occurs when the moment of payment is psychologically separated from the moment of consumption or consequence. Credit cards initiated this process. Digital wallets perfected it. When payment is delayed, bundled, or abstracted, the brain struggles to connect spending with its real cost. The emotional feedback loop breaks. Instead of feeling loss at the point of decision, people feel it later when bills arrive, balances shrink, or savings fail to grow. By then, the decision has already been made, repeated, and normalized. Decoupling creates a dangerous illusion that spending is painless while consequences are distant. This illusion does not eliminate responsibility. It simply postpones awareness. Impulse, reward, and the digital environment. The digital economy is built around instant gratification. Online shopping, subscriptions, in-app purchases, and one-click checkouts all operate on the same principle: reduce resistance between desire and fulfillment. Human brains are highly sensitive to reward cues. Visual stimuli, limited time offers, personalized recommendations, and social validation all activate dopamine pathways associated with anticipation and pleasure. When payment is frictionless, the reward dominates the experience. The cost fades into the background. This imbalance makes impulse spending more likely, not because people are careless, but because the environment is optimized to bypass reflection. Impulse does not feel reckless when consequences are invisible. Small expenses and the myth of insignificance. Digital money also changes how we perceive scale. Microtransactions, subscriptions, and small daily expenses feel harmless in isolation. A few dollars here, a minor fee there. The lack of physical exchange makes each expense feel trivial. However, small expenses accumulate silently. Because digital spending leaves no physical trace, people often underestimate how much they are actually spending. Memory becomes unreliable when transactions are invisible. Cash creates visual scarcity. Digital money creates numerical abstraction. Over time, this abstraction erodes financial intuition. People lose the ability to feel whether they are overspending. Budgets become theoretical rather than experiential. Saving in a world where spending feels effortless. Saving money requires one thing above all else: the ability to tolerate not spending. It requires resisting immediate rewards in favor of future security. This resistance depends heavily on the pain of paying. When spending feels painless, saving feels harder. Digital money makes it easier to justify purchases, postpone saving, and rationalize exceptions. The emotional incentive to protect money weakens when money feels less real. This does not mean digital users are incapable of saving. It means they must rely on external systems, automation, rules, reminders, to replace instincts that used to be internal. The responsibility shifts from feeling to planning. The slow arrival of consequences. Invisible money does not eliminate consequences, it delays them. Financial stress rarely appears suddenly. It builds gradually through overlooked subscriptions, habitual spending, and unexamined choices. Because digital money hides the moment of loss, people often fail to recognize patterns until the effects become unavoidable. At that point, stress feels disproportionate to individual decisions. The mind struggles to understand how so many small actions led to such a large outcome. This confusion is not a failure of intelligence, it is a failure of feedback. Money didn't disappear, it just stopped being felt. In a world of taps, swipes, and silent confirmations, spending no longer carries weight, only consequences that arrive later, quietly. Digital money makes paying effortless, but effortlessness comes at a cost. Awareness fades, impulses grow, and loss feels abstract until it's unavoidable. This isn't about blaming technology. It's about understanding how the human brain reacts when friction disappears. When money stops feeling real, behavior changes. And when behavior changes, consequences follow, whether we notice them or not.